Saturday, and you know what that means, Mifflin. It's another day of SMITE. And to start it all out, we've got the SMITE Challenger Circuit for EU. The matchup today, Hawks Hotel and Papis. And an interesting one to note is Papis aren't at the top end of their bracket right now. The Papis are actually tied for 4th and 5th seed along with their opposition today.
I'm not overly familiar with the SEC, but I do know that the Papis have been pretty dominant in the past. But it seems like with recent additions to the SEC from the SOC qualifiers recently, maybe there's a little bit more competition here.
Yeah, you can see down there, Papis and Hawks Hotel have both dropped a game. Smiley Face have dropped 2, but don't let that 0-2 be deceiving. They did manage to take a single game off of Belt Slap in their matchup, which is not an easy task to be done for it. Snake Pit up 2-0, and Pika Renoobs are the ones who actually had taken down the Papis last week. But for today's matchup, Hawks Hotel and the Papis, and then tonight we'll have Pika Renoobs and Belt Slap, a really good matchup that everybody's going to be wanting to watch once the FPL is over. And then the Papis versus Snake Pit to see if maybe Papis can bring themselves back up into the standings a little bit more.
And they should be able to. I mean, the Papis, they've got talent on this squad. They've been playing together for years, literal years, 4 or 5 years. Wartree, Draco have all been grinding the Battleground of the Gods together. I've got faith that this squad is going to be able to pick it up just a little bit. 1 set loss at the beginning, not enough to break my will.
No, I mean, they've still got 4 more matchups that they can play here to keep building their standings up. So that 1 loss right at the start, that's not everything for them. Picks and bans for game number 1 are underway for, and we'll see where these teams kind of option to draft towards. Papis typically go for a little bit of a later game, kind of go for the slow burn. Hawks Hotel, they kind of like playing more towards that mid game. So I imagine we'll be seeing a lot of that effect into the picks and bans. I imagine a lot of the standard stuff that we're going to see, Ymojas, Kuzenbos will probably be some of the first bans.
Makes sense to me. You got to address the meta stuff. But, J-Mac, I'm not going to let that slide. We're watching EU SEC, and you thought it was news to bring up that these guys want to play for the late game. I'm almost certain that once we're over in Europe, they don't care about the first 30 minutes. If they could load into a game at the 40-minute mark, full build, true 6 items slotted, that's when they would want to compete for the first blood. But you're right so far. It is going to be the Ymoja band coming through. Kali, a staple of the SEC. Johnny really kind of popularized this pick, so it's going to dominate inside the jungle. It seems like the majority of teams have kind of adapted to whatever Johnny is doing. But this Tsukiyomi ban, is that something that you're used to seeing down here?
In the SEC, we have been seeing a lot more frequent bans of Tsukiyomi, a little bit less so in play. We did get to see him yesterday. Wolves actually piloted him in the solo lane, so there is that little bit of flex potential with that god. So at first, I used to be surprised we'd see Tsukiyomi banned, but now after watching how it was performed yesterday into the solo lane, I'm not too concerned about it being banned anymore. I think it's a decent ban onto it. You can knock out a couple of different roles with it. Persephone is no surprise. Guan Yu has been on the rise a lot more recently. I don't want to say that's because of one player in particular, SEC. We kind of been seeing him pop up every so often, but I know that Mogao was playing him a lot before he dropped out of SEC. And Cthulhu actually banned away. We haven't been seeing as much Cthulhu recently.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff still available. Now both Hunters, the priority picks, Cupid and Rom, could be picked up here. Hercules support comes to mind, but if we're going to credit anyone for Guan Yu getting a couple bans, it's got to be Variety over on the Renegades, piloting that inside the soul lane. He's been having an absolute tear on this pick. But where are the Papis going to decide to go from here? If they decide to pick up the Hunter first, it doesn't really strip away too much from Hawks Hotel. They can still pick up the next best pick, which should be Cupid, match it up with whatever they want. Could even be that Sobek or the Kuzenbo that we've seen get priority. But no complaints. Rom doesn't really have any bad matchups. He's a generally very safe pick. Scales well into the late game as well. So I think it's fine to take it up first overall.
I think my biggest problem I've noticed, now the Cupid, picking him up first in this when the Hunter is already grabbed is a little bit questionable. You have some time before you grab it. But for me, I like to call this the Rom first pick kind of like curse, because so many teams who have first picked Rom, they say, we want Rom no matter what, grab him first. They've kind of been struggling with it, losing out or games going a lot longer, and we haven't really seen that success from the first pick Rom. We'll see if the Papis can overcome that curse. But Cupid Kuzenbo on the opposite side for Hawks Hotel, and a Sun Wukong. Mifflin, Sun Wukong is just become a staple again into the meta, it seems.
Yeah, Sun Wukong's real good. I'm not going to jump on the aggro train of saying it's the best pick or the best soul lane or even just one of the most oppressive picks you could take, but I think that Sun Wukong brings a lot of utility to your team. His backline dive is incredibly strong, not only because he can actually lock down backliners on his own, but he has the survivability on the tail end. Goes in with the cat form, transforms into a somersault cloud, and just has that additional layer of survivability or kill potential. And recent itemization changes with Soul Eater and the Sledge and things along those lines really makes this god a very versatile pick. But this raw pickup from the Papis very early on in the draft is going to open up Hawks Hotel to looking towards a little bit of anti-heal inside their draft if they so choose, or even some potential lockdown. I think that taking it this early overall is a little bit dangerous, considering that the Papis haven't selected a jungler yet either, unless this Sun Wukong is going to flex into that role. So it's going to be able to ban out all those setup jungles that we're used to seeing. Erlang Shen comes to mind, Mercury, gods along those lines.
And you mentioned anti-heal, and while Merlin himself doesn't have anti-heal, he's probably one of the best mages in the game to apply Divine Ruin. So, yeah, this raw pick, very questionable early on. Cerberus and King Arthur banned away, taking those ones away from the solo laner on Hawks Hotel, being Maniac, and no surprise, don't let Maniac have King Arthur. Him and Variety, two of the more dangerous solo laners in the world on this god, as well as even Fine. Okay. But Jormungandr, I was starting to think that teams had just forgotten about this pick, but finally, somebody has brought him back into the light, and it looks like Hawks Hotel are going to be the ones to do it.
Look, I wouldn't mind if some teams forgot about this pick. Back at the beginning of Phase 1, or the beginning of Phase 2 as well, we considered Sun Wukong to be just bad Jormungandr. Now, I think that role is kind of switched around a little bit, in that Jormungandr is going to have a very easy time in lane. He shouldn't really ever die. The World Serpent Ultimate's going to be very survivable. He can stealth into team fights incredibly well and disrupt the backline, but he's not ever really going to bring as much as some of these other picks like King Arthur or even the Sun Wukong itself. I'm worried that Jormungandr is now just this one-trick lane bully for pressure inside lane, and then once you get to the late game, he's going to fall off pretty drastically. But with the comp that Hawks Hotel has so far, late game scaling really shouldn't be a concern. They've got Merlin, Cupid, and even Ratatasker to help out with the engage, so as long as one lane is thriving, they should be able to find at least a little bit of success.
Well, they've got the setup for this mid lane Raw now with the Ganesh, and especially with the Naja, the classic 1-2 combo. You take them up in the sky, as soon as they land down, you hit them with the ult out of Raw, and they're dead, or at least you hope they're dead by that point. But Hawks Hotel going for this Ratatasker with his recent changes to Acorn. I feel like we haven't seen him as much as everybody hyped him up that we were going to see. I mean, what's it been about this Ratatasker that's made him seem a little kind of underwhelming comparatively?
I think it's just the meta right now is not really leaning in Rat's favor, but when we do see him, he does have generally pretty decent success, but it's that early game pressure that's been prioritized in the SPL and the SEC that Rat really doesn't bring to the same degree. I think that Erlang Shen outscales him a little bit. You can look towards Thor if you want early game damage. Rat maybe just doesn't fit that bill.
Well, game number 1, we'll see if they're able to maybe fit this Ratatasker in. You mentioned it. Maybe not so much the early game, but we're not looking at early game with these two teams. It's Papis and Hawks Hotel, EU powerhouses in the SEC, and these teams are much more notorious going towards that late stage of the game. And I mean, they've got a great comp on the side of the Papis to do it. You have a Rom, late game hypercarry. You got a Ganesh, who only gets better as time goes on. I would say kind of the one fall-off point they might have would be their Naja, but at the same time, Hawks have such a great comp going late as well.
Yeah, Hawks Hotel's comp is pretty strong into the late game, but their engage potential is really going to be reliant on how well his Fail's going to get involved. He needs to use that ultimate incredibly well, maybe set up for Dazer. If Dazer's blink is down, he's not really going to have the easiest time positioning himself in such a way that the Papis are going to get pushed out of position. They have got tools to deal with this Kuzumbo. The silence from Draco Marino is going to be impactful in a huge way. Once these team fights start to roll around, it's going to make it very hard to get that channeled CC from Hawks Hotel.
A very aggressive play for the purple buff, but they do have a hog on the side of Dazer, so I don't think Draco's going to be able to get that one stolen away. He'll be a little bit of bully to him, and that's about it. So purple buff does go the way of Hawks Hotel, but they might lose their Alpha Harpy for it if Draco and them go for it, but no, they're looking for a potential red buff invade. Fails has a hog of his own, and he's going to drop that one quick. Good communication out of Hawks Hotel. Might be looking to get a kill on Czechia, though. Quick beads burned out of the mid lane Raw, and that's pretty much all his safety gone.
Yeah, Chekio a little bit trigger happy on the beads there. Felt like he was about to get stunned. Unfortunately for him, that was still down from the red buff clear. Better safe than sorry, I guess you could say. But I think he had a little bit of leeway there. Had he did get stunned, the follow-up from Hawk was going to be a little bit far behind, so he could have late beads if he wanted to. Maybe a slight misplay. But now it's up to Hawk's Hotel to exploit that. They need to find some pressure inside the center of the map. If they don't go for the Raw, it doesn't really matter if his beads are down.
Fighting back into the duel, and Warchi taking quite a bit of poke from Streak Up and Dazer. Dazer gonna get one big shove onto Draco Marino. He's gonna block the dash and the heart bomb. One more auto is all that's needed, and Dazer will find it. They might even pick up Warchi, the Kappa, followed by the roll into the dash up by Streak Up. Needs a couple more basics. Heart bomb is gonna be more than enough. The basic to seal the deal. 2 quick kills into the duel lane, and Hawk's Hotel are on the roll.
Clean play from Hawk's Hotel. Shouts to Dazer for being able to set that one up. Draco Marino unfortunately gets his dash caught out there. Warchi assumes that he might be able to clear the wave a little bit faster and create some space for Draco. Unfortunately for him, he ran out of arrows just one too soon. Put himself out of position. Easy follow-up from there. There's no way he escapes out of that situation. Streak Up with the dash is able to confirm that double kill for his side. And now that duo lane is going to struggle mightily. The Papis are going to need some early rotations from Marcus if they want to get some comeback potential over there, because Cupid and Kuzumbo together, their kill potential is only going to go up as they get levels.
So right there, is that one little dash maneuver why we've been seeing so much Kuzumbo ban? I mean, that was a ridiculous amount of damage that Dazer was able to put out on a Draco with just one ability.
Not exclusively that, but it certainly doesn't hurt, right, having that early pressure inside the long lane. But Kuzumbo's main strength, in my eyes, is his ability to sit in front of a mage in the late game and just de-incentivize him to using abilities. If Chekio wants to get involved late, he's going to have a Dazer standing right in front of him, and if he uses any of his abilities, he's going to get the majority of that damage reflected back onto him instantly. I like to call Kuzumbo the god of counter anti-play. You just can't counterplay this man. It doesn't work, because when you hit him, you get punished.
Once again, Draco and Warchi trying to step up despite losing their first battle. They think that they are able to have what it takes to go into a second one. Fails, and Marcus can have a little bit of a spout in the jungle. But the crits from Marcus that he's pulling out here are just too much for Fails to handle. And the heal out of Chekio will make sure that Marcus stays nice and tapped off on health. Well, Marcus and Chekio are 5. Marcus could look for a potential ult, but I mean, there's no target for him. He'll just instead go and steal away a back camp.
Watch out. Streak Ups just tick over to 5. Draco Marino still level 3. Gonna get caught out here. Push into the wall. Heart Bomb should be enough to secure themselves another kill. The Papis, man, they're gonna need some rotations over here. They need it very early, I should say, because Marcus has a lead in the jungle. He could get over to help out, but so far, more willing to just bully Fails in his own jungle.
Splitting up there, probably their best call between Draco and Warchi. You don't want both of them to get caught by that Fields of Love, but I mean, at this point, Draco Marino just can't even walk to his own jungle. Level 5, as soon as Streak Up hit that, he pulled the trigger on that ultimate and got a big kill for him. That's now 2 on the board for that Hunter. I mean, 3 kills this early, uncommon amongst the EU scene, but Hawk's Hotel, they said, we're not worrying about this late game. We know what the Papis can do late game, so let's try and stop them from getting there.
Yeah, gotta use a lead when you've got it. Now, 1,000 gold separating these two teams at 4 minutes is pretty sizable, but not enough that it should make you worried just yet. The entirety of that gold lead resides within the long lane, so one early rotation could alleviate a ton of that pressure. But instead, Marcus again kind of drifting towards the right side of the map, trying to ensure that he gets his blue buff for his team. Chekio has been largely allowed to free farm this entire game. He's established a 1-level lead over his opposition as well. So the Papis have ways to fight back in. They've got an interesting decision to make now. They're going to leave Warchi alone and allow him to free farm, or they can start to put some pressure on the other side of the map.
Well, it's going to be 2 ults for Creeds. He'll be able to get up into the cloud before that Ratatosker slams down, but not sure the same can be said for Draco. He has it level 5, but Dazer's the one in trouble. Up into the sky he goes with Marcus, and waiting on the bottom is Chekio. Or not even. Chekio's not even anywhere near them. All it's going to take is the Dharmic Pillars on the bottom to crush him down. But finally get a nice little turnaround for all the trouble that they've been dealt in that duo lane.
Yeah, Dazer just getting a little bit overzealous there, maybe confident with how the game's been going for him, tries to engage 1 versus 2, try to create some time for his team to follow up there. Hawk wasn't quite in range to deal enough damage to scare off Marcus or Draco, so the quick turnaround kill is going to go in their favor. Nice little bit of synergy as well. Had Draco Marino been even a moment slower on his silence, Dazer would immediately have gone into his ultimate and CC immuned his way out of that situation. Fortunately, Draco Marino does find the silence, immediately followed up by Marcus's ultimate, the Windfire Wheels. Just clean play all around. But the gold lead has been cut majorly off of that one pick. That 1,000, 1,200 gold we were looking at just a moment ago is now closer to 5.
That also comes with the farming with the Papis, especially Czechia. Like you said, he's just kind of been allowed to sit here and free farm into this mid lane. Level 8, same level as Hawk, but a lot of that's just been him getting the mid lane, him getting that mid camp over right next to him on that left-hand side. I mean, you look over at the net worth, and he's tied for his opposition, but he is the second highest farm in the game as the mid laner for this attempt on 2, kind of going back and forth with his jungler. So, I mean, good on Czechia to keep that farm up because they're going to need him when the late game comes. But another thing to look at with Dazer onto it is he went with the cooldown boots. We normally would see the tank boots slotted in here. I mean, why would he even... Is that little bit of a lead kind of what made him maybe a little cocky to go into these boots?
Maybe he's looking to play incredibly aggressive as well. The lead definitely plays into it. Having that additional damage output when you're already feeling confident should be largely helpful. But if we're going to talk about builds, I can't ignore Chekio's build. Normally with the Ra, we see him go for the early Doom Orb to mesh with the movement speed, but maybe we hold that thought as Dazer gets caught again.
Right down into the Dharmic Pillars. No needed out of Czechio is the perfect body blocks on the bottom end of it. But, I mean, this Czechio build, I mean, what's kind of like standing so far out for you onto it?
Yeah, it's normally in the second slot, we'll see Raz immediately go towards that Doom Orb. It's also standing out to me because my man just built in the wrong order. Mage's Blessing, the second slot, is ugly and a bannable offense if I were on the admin team. But it seems like he's going to go for that early Spear of Desolation, for the additional cooldown, maybe a little bit of extra power as well. The penetration should help out. So he's looking to get involved very early on with this build, instead of looking for that mid-game scaling that Doom Orb would allow you to have with an additional 145 power. He's looking to get involved the second that Marcus finds an ultimate or Draco Marino finds a pluck somewhere in mid. Now his damage output is going to be a little bit higher at 8 minutes, but it should fall down a little bit around that 13-minute mark to what he could have been at.
All right, well, hold on. If we're gonna start giving people flack for putting their blessing in the second slot, we got to talk about this Ratatosker here. I mean, Fails also has his blessing in there. Now, people are gonna say, "Oh, well, because the Acorn auto slots," but you almost always buy Tier 2 Acorn to start off. Just sell the Tier 1, buy your blessing, and then buy your Tier 2 Acorn, and now your blessing is in the correct spot. You can't change my mind on that.
Can you sell the I don't think you can sell the Acorn, but again, Draco Marino caught out, has to use his beads early on. Cupid ult drops as well. This is an early grouping from Hawk's Hotel, looking for a team fight in the jungle around this red buff. If they find a couple picks, Gold Fury could fall easily.
Well, Marcus just off the mark with that Sash. Dazer walked just out of range for it, and red buff will go the way of the Papis, but yes, you can sell that Tier 1 Acorn from the Ratatosker at level 1, you know, because they made it now to where you can sell Acorn to buy a 6th item before you couldn't. Now you're able to do that. So go out there and sell your Acorn to get Assassin's Blessing in first slot. It's the only way to play.
You know, fair enough, all right, fair enough. It's remiss of me to kind of slander a jungler right now. I mean, Fails would have to go through the extra effort to slot his Blessing in the correct slot, but that's something, you know, a sacrifice you have to make to play at the top level. But already we're seeing that the dual lane pressure that Hawk's Hotel had early on has been mitigated. The Papis haven't sent anyone over to help out with that lane. Marcus has not rotated in along a single time. They just trusted Warchi to be able to fight in, and while Streak Up is rotating through the jungle, trying to find fights around the red buff, the entire time Warchi was just free farming, and now that 2-level lead has been cut to none.
Well, we're going to throw the 1-2-3 combo onto it. Don't even need the ultimate. The Dharmic Pillars are more than enough damage. Duking out the ult from the Ratatosker might just be enough for him. Chekio gets under the heel for just a little bit longer now. Fails is trying to run away from Marcus and Draco. Rotation from Maniac is not going to be enough. Marcus cleans up the kill onto Fails. And once again, third kill now onto Dazer just from this combo. And they haven't even needed the raw ultimate. It's just been the Dharmic Pillars and Marcus.
Yeah, Dharmic Pillars absolutely shred, but that fight goes south once Hawk's Hotel fails, misses the ultimate on a Chekio, overcommits a little bit, takes a ton of damage trying to finish off that kill. After he missed the ultimate, he likely should have just used Dark to escape out of that situation, but instead he gets a little bit greedy trying to push his lead a little bit further, and now we're starting to see some real disparities growing. Mark is 4-0 on this Naja as a 2-level lead over Fails in the jungle. That's a huge amount of pressure. We're going to see the second relic come online for the Naja much earlier on, likely going to be a Blink as well to help out with that early aggression. It's going to be hard for Hawk's Hotel to find a safe spot to stand when Marcus is so far ahead, because that ultimate Windfire Wheels is going to set up for Draco Marino's Dharmic Pillars or the Searing Pain from Ra if they need it, and they haven't so far, as you highlighted just earlier on. Hawk's Hotel have got a pretty steep hill to climb.
And I love what Marcus has done with his build. He's gone into the Jotun's Wrath, and for how much he's fighting early on, I love it. Normally we'd see the Crusher or a Brawler's Beatstick, or you don't even go for the pen option first off, blink out of Dazer Force there. Normally you don't see the Jotun's Wrath, but he's picked up and he's using it as much as he can, and that's such an important factor on this Naja. I mean, it's worked for him. He's built a substantial lead for himself this early on.
Yeah, that additional cooldown making it a lot easier to stick around in these team fights. It will likely be the Brawler's Beatstick next to deal with some of the healing coming out from the enemy team, as well as just additional penetration and a power spike. And Fails has made an adjustment in his build. Instead of going for the traditional just raw damage output that we've been seeing from Ratatasker recently, he's picking up the Sledge early on, likely in response to this early pressure that's been coming his way. Additional health and crowd control reduction is going to give him an added layer of security and safety around these fights, but it is going to sacrifice a little bit of damage, likely going into the Brawler's Beatstick next as well, just to deal with this Ra's healing. Both teams have a decent amount of sustain, but around the mid-game or these gold, I'm expecting that the Papis are going to come out ahead as far as sustain goes. Marcus has self-healing. Ra's heal is much more impactful, can affect all 5 members, whereas Hawk's Hotel are going to be relying on Streak Up in this Cupid.
Starting up the Furious Hawk's Hotel, and a little late on the rotation from the Papis to try and stop this one. Maniac zoning Draco Marino out to not allow him to get in, so objective play will go towards Hawk's Hotel. They were leaning towards it earlier, but instead kind of just settled for, maybe we can slow him down a red buff. Okay, we didn't get that, let's back away. The lead, still an experience in favor of Papis. The gold kind of teetering back and forth, just with that one Fury kind of bumped it back towards Hawk's Hotel's favor, but I mean, for the most part, this game is still relatively even here at 13 minutes, Mifflin.
Yeah, this early in the game, I would say that XP is a little bit more impactful than gold. Those additional levels give you scaling on the abilities and makes it a lot more impactful than any singular item is going to be at this point in the game. But it's not often that you're watching a match that XP is going one way and gold's going the other. The Papis, no slouches, see an objective go down, say, well, there's at least one more on the map. They group up around the Pyro, but Hawk's Hotel is quick on the uptake.
Chekio's moving so fast to get away from Maniac. Up in the skies, Marcus bringing Dazer down and fails along with them. Maniac with the World Serpent is going to create even more havoc amongst those Dharmic Pillars. Marcus, with nowhere to go, gets stuck inside and dropped down as soon as he gets out of the ultimate. And a little bit of a 1v1 into the dual lane is going in favor of War Chief. Streak Up going to dash right to him, one more basic, and that'll be the solo kill for the Hunter.
Yeah, Streak Up not even sweating that one. There was no doubt in his mind the outcome of that battle. And now Hawk's Hotel have a lot of space to move in towards his Pyromancer. Merlin, in his fire stance, is one of the best gods at burning objectives just instantly. Already the Pyromancer's fall. Draco Marino creating a little bit of space around Dazer. And the ultimate is good from Chekio.
Chekio lands a raw ultimate of his own, able to take down one. Trading out that one for the 2 they lost and the Pyromancer. It's nice for him, but that's not going to be enough onto the lead for it. Interesting to note onto there, after his boots and his Spirit Desolation, he went for an early Lotus Crown. Going for a little bit more of a defensive option, it seems.
Yeah, that's something we've been seeing from Wolfie in the SPL pretty often. It's that a little bit of additional defense to deal with the dive coming through from Fails. This Ratatasker's job in the late game is going to be exclusively dealing with this Ra, so that 60 physical protection is going to be nice for him. And just the passive, once you start to group up around these objectives, give additional protections to your team is always going to be useful. Sacrifices a little bit in the way of damage, but going into the Soul Reaver next, it looks like for this Ra, should be able to make up for that in spades.
And another thing to note onto the builds too, Marcus went for the sledge after his boots instead of what we thought would be maybe the Brawler Speed Stick, and now is going into the Emerald Tree, probably Shield of Regrowth, I would imagine?
It could be that the healing coming through from the second ability could help out quite a bit. It could even go in towards Mail of Renewal, an item that Hindu Man and I agree are kind of slept on recently. But Chekio getting caught out in the jungle, immediately forced into using the Beads of the Aegis. Marcus continuing the fight, but fails, goes up to the sky. He's on the chase.
Well, Chekio went to the wrong side of the map, and he's going to get punished for it. Great Ohm out of the Ganesh will keep him alive for just a moment, but Chekio not able to escape the Wrath of Fails. The Acorn Blast is enough to take down the mid laner. Another push by Dazer is going to take him into the clutches of Maniac. Creed has those thorns popped, but now that they've worn away, they can start focusing that damage onto him. Into the Ice Stance, Hawk goes. See if he can get some more damage, but a teleport out of Maniac will stop the split push from Warchi, who didn't rotate over. Streak Up misses that Heart Bomb, and that could be a potential dropped kill onto Creed. Diving in, Marcus still has the ult. He's going to take one up into the sky. Onto the cloud goes Creed, and as soon as he lands down, Marcus able to pick up Streak Up. Hawk getting hit by the ring bounce along with Dazer. Maniac has to beat away from the Tiger stance. Under the tier 1 tower, the teams go. Creed taking a lot of tower shots, and Draco trying to tank it up and just in case Marcus rotates back in. But a long, drawn-out team fight between these two.
Fantastic communication from the Papis as well. Warchi initially starts to split push that tier 2 tower inside the long lane, walks away once he sees the teleport start to get channeled, but then Creed knocks Maniac out of his teleport with a 72 transformation. Warchi immediately rotates back over, which forces Fails to make a response coming out of base to try and defend his tier 2. Unfortunately for Fails, he's there a little bit too late, so not only are the Papis taking down an objective, but they also have the numbers advantage inside of a team fight. Nice communication, a good use of time as well from the Papis, just to lock down Hawk's Hotel inside of that tower and create the space for Warchi to find that tier 2 tower. And now, no towers left in the long lane, Gold Fury respawning very soon. There's no real way for Hawk's Hotel to retreat into the long lane if they do start to lose a team fight. Fortunately for them, though, that tier 1 tower in mid remains standing.
Marcus gets caught by Maniac trying to back in the jungle, and it looks like Hawk's Hotel are going to be the ones to get started up here for this Oni Fury. They've got the full timer for it, and they're here ready for it on respawn. It's going to be up to Maniac and Dazer to zone Draco Marino away. He's got Dharmic Pillars, but the Oni Fury going down quick. 10%. Hawk's Hotel does get the Oni Fury. Warchi finds the snipe onto Fails. Maniac into the World Serpent, going on full retreat. So they managed to get one for their troubles, but that Oni Fury still goes the way of Hawk's Hotel. But Papis don't look like they're fully giving up. They're gripping up into the mid lane. Might look to just take this tier 1 tower to alleviate a little bit of that gold.
They could also move in towards the Fire Giant if they so choose. 5 members strong, healing, all of them full health, 1 member dead on the side of Hawk's Hotel. If not going for the objective, the Poppy's going to at least force a rotation in here. Dazer doesn't have his ultimate, so he's going to have to play on a thin margin if he wants to survive this engagement.
Hawk is zoned so far back, Streak Up as well, but he does have Fields of Love, so they need to be wary on this Fire Giant. Chekio is in the pit along with Warchi. Fire Giant started up, but they've got an ult for Raw to secure it, and they're going to have Dazer caught out of the dash by Marcus, and as soon as he lands down, he is gone. Dead meat out of the Kuzumbo, now chasing forward. Maniac with no ultimate of his own. He's going to get caught by Draco Marino. Warchi and Chekio teaming up. They take down Hawk, they grab Maniac, and Fails, you might get one, but is he going to be able to make it out? Dharmic Pillars do so much, and Chekio with the heal manages to find him on the back end. Streak Up, the only one alive. Creek chasing him out. He's going to get the slow and put a big old trip on the board for Chekio.
What a clean team fight. Hawk's Hotel stick around way too long after the objective falls. Fails goes in, says to himself, okay, well, I've already used the ultimate. The fight's lost, but I can at least take Fire Giant off 1 member. Unfortunately for Hawk's Hotel, it's going to be Marcus, who is likely one of the least impactful members to have that buff. He's not really tanking up the objectives. He's also not going to be the one doing the majority of damage to it. You generally want to take out the supports or the carries in this situation. But the chase going so far into that right side Phoenix means that the Poppies aren't going to be able to push down that right side. Instead, they turn their attention towards mid, strip away the tier 1, the tier 2, and the red buff, and now this gold lead has ballooned 5,000 gold in favor of the blue team. XP in the lead as well. Fire Giant on 4 members, and there's only 2 towers standing between the Poppies and the base of Hawk's Hotel. I'd be surprised to find out where the Papis decide to go here. The most important Phoenix on the map is going to be inside that long lane. If you're able to remove it, it makes it so much harder to defend subsequent Fire Giants when Fire Minions are going to be leaking their way down the opposite side of the map. But with a tower still up on the right side, that is the easiest objective for them to clear out, and it seems like that might be the call here for them.
I mean, for me, Phoenix Siege is going to be Hawks Hotel's only saving grace here, but Mifflin, I'm looking across the board, and Dazer just hit level 12 on this Kuzumbo like 5 seconds ago. I mean, how difficult is this siege going to be for Hawks Hotel to defend?
It's going to be hard, especially considering they've got a little bit more of a substandard mage. Merlin has a much harder time keeping the minion waves out safely. His abilities are a little bit more of a channel, but his damage output and ability to poke inside of the fight or around this Phoenix is going to be incredibly high. It's all about the initial fight for Hawks Hotel, because as far as the stain goes, it's going the way of the Papis.
Well, Dazer's going to get his dash immediately stopped by the Ohm Fields of Love onto 2, but Sheffield finds 2 with the snipe. Creed out of the cloud will pick up a double kill of his own. Maniac manages to, unfortunately, once again, only pick up Marcus so far with it. An immediate death stun onto Fails. He has to leap away and use his beads. Maniac's beads down. Phoenix in the mid lane gone as well, with 4 standing strong. Minion wave there. Warchi will rotate to take the right side. Phoenix. But I'm not sure if there's much that Fails and Maniac can do to defend against this Titan. Maniac's gone. Fails has to go back too, but Jekio finds him with the beam. And the Titan will go down. Papis take it in just 22 minutes.
Clean play from the Papis. A little bit of a struggle in the early game. They need to clean that one up just a little bit around that long lane. But short of that, it really did feel like the Papis were in control for the majority of the match, despite Hawks Hotel taking down early Gold Furies or taking out these early objectives or even finding picks in mid. It just never felt like they were able to make a truly proactive play unless it was around sneaking an objective. And we knew going into it that the Papis should be the favorite in this matchup. One loss early on in the season doesn't really mean they're slipping.
Yeah, I mean, Papis, we always kind of call them the late game. Once we get to 25, 30 minutes, we get one team fight, and that's all we need. And that's all it took for the Papis. They got one team fight, and it swung the doors wide open for them. When you looked at the graphs before, Experience and Gold were essentially the same. The problem is Experience never left the Papis' favor. They always had that XP lead on for them. But, I mean, when it came down to it, this Kuzumbo just fell so far behind. Dazer was never able to really get the ball rolling outside of those first kills, and that's what was so surprising. He was level 5 when Draco was level 3, but he just lost that lead entirely.
Yeah, just a little bit overzealous, feeling himself a little bit too much around that lead. The majority of the comeback from the Papis was off of picking Dazer inside the mid. The 3v3 from Hawks Hotel was largely lacking. I didn't really see at any point that they were looking to play consistently or play together. It just felt like everyone was kind of moving in at their own pace. They need to clean up their 3v3, but their laning phase went just fine. Long lane went fine. Solo lane didn't really have any big diff coming through there either. But it seems like as far as 3v3 potential in the fight in mid, it was just incohesive.
Yeah, the draft was strong. The execution, maybe not so much out of Hawks Hotel. We'll see if maybe they can clean that up in game number 2. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. early game went so well for Hawks Hotel. They started with a 3-0 lead, Mifflin, and then from there, it just all fell apart. One attempted red buff steal didn't go their way. That started leading to a couple of kills for the Papis. And even though Hawks Hotel got the Gold Fury, like I said, they never had an experience lead. Papis felt like they just had the upper hand at all points of the game.
Except for the first 2 minutes where they got absolutely bodied inside that long lane. But short of that, I agree with you completely. It felt like Hawks Hotel really wasn't cohesive. And their draft, if you look at it, doesn't really have the pieces that you would expect. They've got a little bit of setup from Fails, with the follow-up potential from Merlin is disjointed. It's not that huge burst damage like something a Raw could bring. Streak Up, although playing Cupid, wasn't having any assistance in his lane. There was very rarely any rotations over there. And with the matchup in a Rom, Cupid should win out in the 1v1 just ever so slightly, but he's going to need a little bit of assistance finding consistent kills. Warchi on this Rom can immediately just go up into the air. If Fields of Love is dropped. Outside of that, he can just play back and not really have to worry about any of the damage coming his way. Dazer, unfortunately, man, you're gonna get the calling card for me of the reason they lost here. Hawks Hotel really did struggle around their support, getting picked out too much around that mid lane. I'd like to see a little bit of adjustments from Hawks Hotel inside the P's and B's, potentially around a safer pick for their Guardian.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, they got 2-3 actually early kills all in the duo lane. Dazer had a 2-level lead on Draco Marino. He hit 5 first, but ever since that point, it was just pick after pick. Marcus had his number dialed in, and every single ultimate that Marcus threw in that early game was on to Dazer. They made sure it was nonstop, keep this Kuzenbo down. And then even when, at this play here, I felt like that was kind of the true turning point for the Papis, is when Fails came through, missed that ultimate onto Chekio. Chekio lives through all of that and was able to get a turnaround kill onto him. I mean, Marcus played so well for this team transitioning into that mid game.
Yeah, and just to highlight this damage output right here from Warchi. My man hit the second and third shot and still dropped 1,000 damage into the backline. But that Fails play in mid, when he goes up into the air, there's only about 100 health separating Chekio between the Mortal Coil and the Shadow Realm, and Fails still wasn't quite able to line that one up for his team, and that did feel like a huge turning point there. But this triple kill from Chekio as well, incredibly impressive. Hawks Hotel, they have the potential. I saw it in that gameplay. They can absolutely take a game, if not the set. They're just going to need to clean up a little bit around that mid game.
Yeah, I mean, that play right there around the Phoenix was also nasty. Chekio just decides, well, you know what, let's just throw a big ultimate out. Kills one, almost kills the second. I believe the Thorns from the Sun Wukong out of their soul lane was actually what dealt the finishing blow on the second one. They drops right out of the cloud, gets another kill, and that's pretty much game over from there. But picks and bans for game number 2. This time, Hawks Hotel opt to take the first pick for themselves. They're still going to ban away this Kali and the Rom. A first ban of Rom is a little surprising to me. Yes, he's one of the better hunters out here, but is this like, we got to take this god away? I mean, now why not just pick it for themselves?
They could have picked it for themselves, but it tells me that they really aren't prioritizing that pick, and they're still going to be able to get the next best hunter, which is going to be Cupid. And if they take it first off overall here, it means that the Papis are going to have to go down a tier, likely to the Heimdall or something along those lines. On her, with the recent buff, is looking very strong right now. We might see a little bit of shake-up in the hunter meta, but I would be surprised if Hawks Hotel doesn't go towards the Cupid. With Rom already being banned out, it's just the best choice.
And not just that, by them picking it, I feel they're also taking a second pick away from Warchi, because Warchi loves Cupid. Like, that is Warchi's god to play. So if you take the Rom, immediately Warchi's thinking, all right, cool, it means I get a Cupid. So they're going to take that one away and force them a little bit lower into the tiers onto it. But first pick Raw, I mean, it did well last game, but wow, Papis are saying, yeah, we really like this Raw, and they're going to snap lock it first pick for themselves.
Yeah, taking a play out of Obey's book this time around. And Ra is an incredibly strong pick. Recently even got buffed to have slow immunity on that second ability, the Divine Light. So he's going to have a very easy time escaping out of any situation. The Fields of Love is going to have a very hard time locking down this Ra. It honestly should never really connect unless it's followed up by additional CC from other members of Hawks Hotel. Kuzenbo getting stripped away here as well. Now Dazer going to have to fall down to a different pick himself, acting almost as a ban. But this is interesting. Cthulhu got banned out in the first phase last time around. This time, Hawks Hotel taking it for themselves. And I like to call Cthulhu the god of win harder, because he struggles mightily when he's not inside that ultimate form, and even if he is in that ultimate form when his team is behind, he only acts as a huge CC center, and when your team is struggling, it means that they really can't make use of it. So I think Hawks Hotel are looking for that exact same start that we saw last time around, get some early pressure, and then match it with his Cthulhu to help out and around the team fights. Could be pretty impactful.
And Agni locked in here on the side of Hawks Hotel. Now, there aren't too many players in the SEC playing Agni. I think Brotst is one of the first ones that came to mind for myself. Gunter as well was also playing this god a lot. So Hawks Hotel going to throw a little bit of respect over to this Agni. Now, I personally love Agni. He's one of my favorite gods in the game. And it's because he's such a simple god. You need a lot of damage, play Agni. You need long-range setup, play Agni. I mean, he's rather safe, has really high damage output, and can be a good setup for your teams. I love the pickup here for Hawks Hotel. And in response, Papis are going to go right back to this Naja. I mean, it worked so well for them in Game 1. Just go with it again in Game 2, I guess.
And I like this Agni pick in particular, J-Mac, because of how well he applies Divine Ruin. Agni's passive, when he stacks it up, he can use the bomb, and it applies this ticking damage to whoever he hits, which is also going to apply the item effect Divine Ruin. So if Ra's ever out of position or just in range to be touched by any bit of damage from Agni, the healing is going to be hugely mitigated. So I like this pick a lot, as well as just for the safety. But he is going to have a bit of a hard time matching up into Kuzumbo, into Naja. This backline dive has so much mobility that even though Agni has a dash, he could struggle a little bit.
Raven locked in for Hawks Hotel, and this is going to make it a little bit difficult for this Raw to kind of have fun in that mid lane. And a lot of dive potential out of this team. You got the Cthulhu, and you want to talk about more and more dive. Throw a Bacchus into the middle of it. I mean, we don't see Bacchus very often. I think one of the few players that still picks up this god is probably Nilma, maybe one of the other SPL supports can pop this into, but that's a hard maybe at that. I mean, is this Bacchus just for the anti-heal that would be applied to this Raw?
The anti-heal likely plays into it, but I think it's because Hawks Hotel, with this draft, it makes me think that they're really trying to vie for the late game. Robin's only there to make sure that they get there, and then the later the game goes on, Bacchus is statistically, empirically, the tankiest late game Guardian in the game. He gets additional mitigations from his passive, as well as defense every time he uses the first ability to drink, so he just becomes this late game tanky powerhouse who can sit in your back line, who does just enough damage, who has just enough lockdown that you can't ignore him even if he does decide to go for a full defense build, which I would be surprised to see. Usually when we see Bacchus get picked up, that 6-item slot is largely dedicated to items like Voidstone or even a Soul Reaver to make that dive even just that much more potent.
Well, the Jingwei for the final lock, and they're going for some safety on that Hunter, but game number 2 between Papis and Hawks Hotel. Papis are up on the 1-0, so Hawks Hotel have to do a lot to hold themselves into this matchup here for, and yeah, I mean, you're going to see Fails taking the Robin into the jungle. I mean, we're seeing the Cthulhu come out, like you said. It was banned last time around. This time it did make it through, and I mean, how is this going to change that solo lane dynamic going up against this Cerberus?
It really shouldn't affect too much. The fight potential largely is going to favor Creed there inside the short lane. He's going to have a very easy time just looking for poke, whereas the Mire from Maniac, that second ability on Cthulhu, where he just drenches you in sludge from the heavens, is so hard to confirm. That damage output being his highest damaging ability outside of the dash isn't really all that consistent. So I think that we're going to see one of the wettest, noodliest fights inside the short lane. It's going to take a jungle rotation if either one of them is going to die. In the words of the wise Bulby from Jimmy Neutron, it's going to be a slap, 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 clap, 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 and that's all that's going to happen. They're just going to dance around, just clap with each other. You know what? Let's have fun into the solo lane. And into the mid lane, this Agni, typically there's primarily only the one main star, which is that dash. It used to kind of be the only wave. We have seen a little bit of change up, maybe to go with Flame Wave, but you do see that Hawk has opted for dash level 1. As soon as it's level 2, he'll be able to get that secondary clear. Dual lane, I imagine this is where we're going to see, again, the same aggression that we saw last game. We could, but this Bacchus is going to have a hard time trying to lock down Warchi. Jingwei can just dash out. Maybe mids where the aggression starts. Fails, moves up aggressively, finds the root, but isn't able to find the Prana Onslaught with it. so it's going to fizzle out just a little bit. Nice little trade between the junglers, leave them both at half.
With it. Solo lane, everybody's kind of just fighting and fighting. And that's really the name of this early game between them is Fails wants to be aggressive, Marcus wants to be aggressive, and Hawk wants to get a kill. Might be looking for another one. Dashes very aggressively into Chekio, but he's going to draw the minions over and take about half his health himself between the basic attacks from Chekio and these minions chasing him in. Him and Fails are going to have to be careful here because Chekio could look to maybe turn and get a potential kill. Hawk's not level 3 yet. He doesn't have the stun available. He dashes right through Chekio, and with one root and the Prana Onslaught after, Fails is able to pick up a second kill for Hawk's Hotel.
Like, I get it, Chekio. You're feeling confident. You got your homies with you in the jungle, 3 minions backing you up, but you can't step up that aggressively into that team composition. Robin's damage output is so high in the early game, one of the best early game brawlers in the game, and we see it there completely. The second Chekio misses his beam, there's 0 kill potential for him, so Hawk's Hotel commits immediately. Now, we're seeing a similar start that we did last game, an early lead for Hawk's Hotel, but instead it's in the 3v3.
You get to see that push. This time it's Draco Marino doing the shoving around with that sumo slam, but he takes the worst end of that trade, and what makes it even worse for him is he doesn't have the sustain that Streak Up does on this Cupid. He'll be able to go right back up to full health despite taking so much poke from that sumo slam.
Yeah, this duo lane should be going in favor of the Papis just because Dazer's been largely mitigated. We even saw the interaction there. He goes for the belly flop on a Warchi and immediately gets it dashed out. So this is how he's going to have to engage each fight with the burp to set up for the heart bomb and then use the flop to confirm the damage off the stun. What a nice kill from Dazer. Well-executed fight from Hawk's Hotel.
I mean, it's like they had you in their ear the entire time on how to do it. You get, heart bomb right after the stun. I mean, it's perfect setup. I mean, there's so much synergy with Bacchus on almost any god in the game. I mean, maybe Sobek would be the only one with a little bit better setup for them. Beads out of Dazer. He's going to run away. Bomb stun out of Hawk. Will saves the life of the support, and with that level 5, gives him that extra range setup, or in this case, the extra range peel that you'd like to see from that mid laner.
But Marcus stepping up isn't willing to let it end just like that. Streak Up's low on mana, uses the hearts instead of the dash, so he's going to go ahead and lose out on the purple buff here. And no rotation from the rest of Hawk's Hotel is going to get him out of the situation alive unless Marcus sticks around too long. Fails, and Hawk himself, the titular main character of this team, have started their rotation, but an early lead for the Naja. He shouldn't be too worried. The Windfire wheels are already available to him for that additional escape.
Good thing Streak Up peeked up at the top and saw the level change onto Marcus, because if he would have made one more step closer to that jungle, I'm sure Marcus would have dove right on him with that level 5 ultimate. And luckily for Streak Up, he will be able to make it out alive, no problem. Oracle Harpies go the way of Hawk's Hotel for that extra little bit of vision onto that left-hand side of the map. Dazer looking for level 5, and that's when Bacchus really gets a big power spike with his own ultimate. I might be looking for Warchi here. Warchi, luckily, is a Jing Wei, so even if he does get hit by the flop, he can fly away. Gonna go for the Belch, and that's gonna set up for Warchi. Just go ahead and go back right into the tower. I mean, that's the safety this Jing Wei provides, and I feel that this Bacchus is kind of the only reason that they got forced into this Jing Wei.
Yeah, Jingwei has been having a little bit of popularity recently, though. Barracuda in particular loves this pick, one of his highest prioritized hunter picks. It still has that damage potential. The crit in the early game from the explosive bolts can help out a lot as well. Jingwei, one of the few gods inside that hunter role that can really get additional pressure out of the crit build instead of the more traditional attack speed build with Silver Branch Bow that we've seen have a lot of popularity recently. But interesting. Creed's already established himself a 1-level lead inside the soul lane. It could just be those last couple minions separating those two. We are not going to see any pressure over there. Soul in this game, in my mind, comes down to who rotates out first. And Dazer, deja vu to game 1.
And this time, there's a snipe to follow up on the bottom because there's no Dharmic Pillars available to him. So Chekio will finally show him what the 1-2 combo looks like out of a Naja run. And to me, it's no surprise that it is Dazer that they were able to find out for it. He's been playing very aggressively both these games. Again, because he's been able to get this massive lead early, but Chekio steps a little too far forward. Mystic Rush and one more basic from Fails will be enough to take down the mid laner. And again, you step a little bit too far forward and you pay the price for it.
Yeah, that's just what Robin brings, that early game pressure, and matched up with Agni, who has a very easy time following up on damage from a range, be it through the ultimate or through his dash. And now Marcus in a little bit of trouble. The passive might be enough. One more auto is all it takes, but he is going to get out of this situation alive.
I'm not sure that Draco will, however, even though he gets the push under the tower onto Dazer, the rest of the team shows up in spades in order to save the life of their support. So another turnaround kill for Hawks Hotel, 5-1 now is their lead. And I mean, but it's only 1,500 gold. They got that first blood bounty, but a lot of kills, but nothing more followed up beyond there.
Yeah, Marcus's pathing right there can only be described as disrespectful, lazy. He just walked in front of an Agni, greedy. Yeah, any E you want to throw in there besides smartly, because he walks just right in front of Agni, loses out on the majority of his health bar, forces his teammates to rotate in. Draco Marino, being the support, has to make the play to try and save his teammate's life. Unfortunately, he does, but at the cost of his own. It's just, it could have been avoided. Just walk a little bit safer. The Papis seem like they're still in that game one mindset, and they're playing as if they have the lead. But take a peek at the slash lines. 5-1 right now in favor of Hawks Hotel, but there's really not that much gold separating these two squads. It's mainly just experience, and even then, largely the same.
I mean, you can even see that there's a level lead amongst the Hunters. Draco gets a push onto Dazer, but thanks to the knock-up immunity from that Belch, Dazer will be just fine. It's Draco who takes the majority of that damage. And like you said, looking at the slash lines, everybody's pretty much even. It's only about a half level here and there between the jungle and the duo lane Hunter, and even the mid laner Hawk has a small little advantage wave to wave. Creed's going to take a little bit of poke from the mire, but I mean, it's a Cerberus. He's got a leap. He's able to get out of it, no problem.
Yeah, this is nuts, taking a peek at those charts. 500 XP, like 200 gold separating these two teams. There should be a way bigger disparity considering how many kills Hawks Hotel have. It's just that they haven't been able to optimize on it on the map. The Papis have been continually invading this purple buff, controlling the oracles, picking up the mid camps, whereas Hawks Hotel have been dedicating so much time to finding kills. This entire time, the Papis have just been power farming the entirety of the map.
Hawks Hotel are kind of playing the arena match right now. Buff up that stat line a little bit, patch your stats, see if you can get some more. And Maniac forced to ult there at only half health. I'm not sure as to why he went for the ult there. Bomb over the wall from Hawk. Not going to be able to set up for anything further on a Draco. But look at this. First item, Divine Ruin immediately after the beads. Hawk immediately is going to answer to this healing problem.
Yeah, I think we saw Maniac use his ult there to try and avoid the Cerberus ult. Just didn't want to get CC'd, realized there's not really that much fight potential, doesn't want to take too much poke. So trading out his own ultimate, not the biggest deal unless a jungler decides to rotate over, but because Creed has to dedicate his own as well, it means that both are going to be susceptible to a gank. Creed has already established a 1-level lead in favor of himself just through pressure in the lane, and take a peek at the solo lane towers, the mid lane tower as well. The Papis losing out on that mid-objective, that mid-tier 1 tower is going to be hugely impactful once these Gold Fury dances start up. It's the most defensive tower on the map to create space. It opens up so many avenues for Hawks Hotel once they are going to be able to lock that one down, as opposed to the Papis, who have been putting a lot of pressure on this solo tower. Not nearly as good.
Yeah, nobody's really looking to solo lane for their safe haven. Everybody has kind of got their eyes set on the mid. I mean, the map is centered around the mid lane. That's kind of why they call it the mid. Warchi has to use that airstrike to get himself out. Opted not to use the beads there. I mean, that's the best call you can have as a Jing Wei. You trade ult for ult, and that's all she wrote onto it. But Fails looking for a potential setup here, trying to peek around the corner, see if they can get anything. Draco's going to get a push onto Dazer, into the water. Gravy's going to interrupt Fails a little bit and set up for Marcus to have the ultimate on the bottom end of it. Doesn't even need the snipe out of the mid laner, but Hawk manages to grab Marcus. Maniac with the rotation over Creed late to rotate through, so they trade jungle for jungle. But so far, the ults are still in favor. They still have mid lane ult from Chekio, but a quick teleport out of Maniac. That could set up a fight here for the Papis if they've recognized that. Dazer has to force to be leap away from the Papis, but I'm questioning as to why Maniac made that full teleport commit back to that right side.
Seems like he'd give it up on that gold free attempt, and now he's getting a little bit aggressive in the jungle. Creed trying to lock him down just ever so slightly, but with no follow-up, his damage output's not really going to be enough to force anything here. Chekio, on the other hand, has his beats forced out. Now he's surrounded.
Yeah, there's nowhere to go when you are Raw stuck in the middle of a mid-camp facing a Cthulhu, a Bacchus, and an Agni. I mean, that's just asking for death at that point. Dazer going to have to use his own beads. And Mifflin, we have been seeing this specifically a lot in these last few weeks of play, in these last few sets, has been supports and or solo laners just buying beads.
Look, after Dazer's last game, I can't fault him at all for wanting to pick up a little bit more of a selfish relic, and it's been working out for him now. 2-1-2 for the Bacchus as opposed to the, what was it, a 1-6 that we saw in game 1. So this beads pickup has come in useful. However, with the support Draco Marino picking up a shell for his team, if the Papis are able to group up his 5 and take a team fight around an objective until that level 12 mark, they should have the advantage. That team fight relic is going to do a lot to mitigate damage for them, but Dazer is just getting aggressive everywhere on the map. He's going to find poke for his team and make sure that the fight doesn't go to a 5-on-5. Or just die.
Dazer's going to get shoved. He's going to get shoved through the wave. They need one more basic, and luckily Chekio's able to clean that one up. And again, they commit so much to trying to kill Draco Marino, but he's just too tanky. Fails is taking so much damage from the breath out of Creed. Creed doesn't have an ultimate, so he's just going to chase him around until eventually he gets back to his tower. But, I mean, this is the benefit of having this solo lane versus support server. Solo lane server is going to hit just a little bit harder.
Yeah, he picks up the lifesteal boots for the additional power and Sona Gaia for survivability. Both solo laners mirroring each other's builds here, so it's going to be very hard for anyone to shut him down. Draco Marino in particular is going to really not want to interact with Maniac at all. The push, the ultimate, all going to trigger that Sona Gaia. And Creed, if he gets hit by Maniac inside that dash, the ultimate is going to have the exact same situation. Dazer as well, not likely wanting to start the fight off onto this Cerberus. I'm excited now. Around that 13-minute mark is where we saw in game 1. Both teams started to group up around this gold tree, started to look for these team fights, look for the picks around it. And we're at a completely even state. 200 gold separating each of these teams, a little bit of XP, maybe about a 1-level disparity on any individual pick. It's just the Hunter, Warchi, who's up a level. This game, 13 minutes in, is completely even despite the 7-3 slash line favoring Hawks Hotel.
Now, normally I don't like to, kind of poke at the damage numbers this early on. It's only 13 in. A lot of it's the quote-unquote fake solo damage, but look who's at the top of the damage chart. It's Hawk on this Agni. I mean, right there, 3 bombs he landed through and jumped up 1,000 player damage. He is leading the chart by over 2,000 to the next person in. Somebody has got to do something about Hawk, or this is going to snowball out of control for Hawks Hotel.
But it is a little bit deceptive. It's not that his burst is incredibly high, but he goes to the Chronos Pendant very early on in his build, allowing those meteors to be up even more often. So he's just constantly looking for poke.
And they're going to get it onto Draco. He's going to push Fails under the tower, but he's got overhead kick, so he'll be able to get away from the damage of Chekio and Draco Marino. But unfortunately, from what I am seeing out of Hawk, is he's throwing a lot of that damage onto the support. It's almost always exclusively been onto Draco Marino, so yeah, you got a lot of support poke onto him. Now, still 0-1-3 on Draco Marino. Beads forced out of Dazer. He has to jump away one more time, just that way he doesn't get ulted by Marcus. Fails looking for Chekio into the back. Fails has to be careful himself. Marcus looking to maybe set up an ultimate. Bomb stun out of the mid laner, but Creed is going to get one thrown back. Timmy Maniac into the Sentient of Madness, looking for Creed as he's the one who's low in the midst of the fight. He leaps away from Dazer, might be looking to dive the tower, but instead they're going to back away for the time. They get one more big knockup. Creed with the blink in. He's not going to find the stun, and he's not going to find the slow that he needs. Not enough damage out of mid lane. Hawk Chekio still has the ultimate for Dazer on landing, and he's going to find it over the wall, but he'll pay with his own life. Fails, gets dropped down. Creed putting out so much poke on the Cerberus, along with Warchi. Draco takes down Maniac. Fails, falls as well. Blink in from Marcus. The sash forces the beads out of Hawk. He gets hit by the knockup out of the Jing Wei, but he just can't find the last hit of damage. Draco Marino takes him down with the Watery Grave.
Yeah, interesting decision there from Hawks Hotel to try and recommit to the fight after they'd already committed the Cthulhu ultimate. There's really no way for them to stick around. Hawk had already committed the majority of his meteors as well, so the damage output from Agni was lacking. The second that Cthulhu drops out of the Descent of Madness, we see that the Papis engaged fully. Creed at a quarter health blinks in, finds whatever he can, the overhead kick from Fails was able to get him out of the Cerberus ultimate, but short of that, the damage output was all there. Chekio in the back is able to find the ultimate to finish off the kill on the Dazer, and Fails for some reason engages under the tier 1 tower, largely alone, and then gets his life returned in exchange onto a kill that had already gotten all the value that he needs. Once Ra's ultimate is down, once his damage is already put out, there's not really much else he was going to be able to do outside of sustain up his squad. It just felt like Hawk's Hotel was fighting over nothing after they had already forced the Papis to back up. Instead, they could have gone to the Pyromancer or the Gold Fury, look for a neutral objective, force the Papis to take a fight in a disadvantageous position, but instead, Hawk's Hotel just wanted to fight under their tower.
And unfortunately for them, they've now lost any lead that they did have. 3,000 gold in favor of Papis, and it might be more with Fails landing on the bottom end. Chekio's got the snipe to confirm the kill, and that's another death onto the jungler. Rotation in from Maniac, looking for Chekio. He's going to drop the Mire down, but he's going to get stopped immediately. Dazer, no beads available, and the Intoxicate is not going to save his life. Chekio gets the kill stun. On to Maniac, going to throw him into the middle of all 5 of them. Luckily for Maniac, he has the dash, drops the Mire, gets only Warchi with the root, but they don't care about Maniac anymore. They got a tier 1 tower, as well as 2 kills.
Man, I am getting deja vu to game 1. Hawk's Hotel dominates the early game. The Papis wake up around that 16-minute mark, and now we're already looking at a Fire Giant attempt. Has the Descent of Madness. Yeah.
He's got that ultimate available. Fire Giant still being committed on by the Papis. Maniac gonna finally jump into that ultimate, but Papis have the ult to secure it from the Raw, and Maniac is just gonna fall to the pits of fire from not just the Fire Giant, but the Papis' own damage. And now, unfortunately for Hawk, he's already committed his dash to get away. Marcus catches him out, and that'll be the end of the line for Hawk's Hotel at that Fire Giant. It might be even the end of the line for them here. We're only 18 minutes in, and the Papis are storming up this tier 2 tower in solo.
Yeah, but they don't have a minion wave, so they're not going to be able to move in towards the Phoenix. There's still 3 towers on the map. They're likely going to go through those first, trying to pick up a little bit additional gold. Pick up the Pyromancer on the way back, might as well. And already we're starting to see the damage output coming from this Jing Wei. Instead of electing to go for that standard crit build that we have been seeing from Jing, the Rage, the Wind Demon, something along those lines, she is going to be picking up that standard attack speed. So Atalanta's coming through, Kin size as well, likely moving into the Oboe or the Silver Branch up next, and her damage output is going to be good, matched up with that additional crit potential from exploding bolts. So now we're moving into the point of the game where Hawk's Hotel have to make a hard decision. Do we want to defend these towers at all? Do we want to group up and try and slow down the push from the Papis? I don't think we're going to see them put up a hard defense, but they can certainly at least commit a few resources to just slowing it down and make this Fire Giant be a less impactful push. Unless this happens. Hawk's completely caught out.
Oh, Chekio with the shot through 2 walls to find Hawk, and I think their defensive resources may have just run dry. Now there's no mid laner to try and push up these waves. There's no mid laner to put out the burst damage they need. I mean, look at them. 18,500 damage has been from just the mid laner alone. There's no way that Hawk's Hotel could defend against this left Phoenix. It's going to go down with little to no difficulty for the Papis. Now moving over into the mid lane. Maniac's going to be their front line for. They still have the tier 2 tower to take down, but that's going to go down very quickly. They got a minion wave available for them. Pushing forward are the Papis. I mean, the defense, this is a really hard ask from them. But Hawk is back up. Beads out of Dazer. Fields of Love out of Streak Up is going to get a few people into the Sense of the Madness from Maniac. Frida's getting low into the back. They might be able to pick up one, but they're not going to grab it in time. Marcus finds Dazer. And that's the support down. Chekio tries to get a shot over the wall, but everybody's low. But luckily for them, they do have a Raw. They can just heal right back up and do it again.
A Raw, a Fire Giant buff, and time to work with. 20 seconds left on Dazer's respawn means that they can slowly work their way back in. And with Maniac not having the Cthulhu ultimate available to him, that's a huge pillar their team fight lost.
And that's 2 bombs down from Hawk. That's a huge brunt to their damage. And he does have Chronospin, so get one of those back rather quickly. But Creed's the one who's taking quite a bit of poke. Caught him with that Heart Bomb. He's going to drag it into 3 players. They're going to get stunned out by a Watery Grave just to zone out the playing field. Draco Marino is going to push Hawk back. That's going to force his bead. Snipe Out of Chekio, not quite enough to take down Maniac. He's sludging his way through to get out, but Streaka manages to find one. Warchi grabs, fails, and everybody's getting low on the side of the Papis. They've got to go for a retreat, but not before Warchi takes down Hawk under the Phoenix, makes it a 2-for-2.
2-for-2 trade, but now the Papis lose all of their siege potential. Without Warchi, they can't go for that Phoenix. They've already taken down that duo side Phoenix, the most important one, and the Firemen anyways are leeching their way into the base. But this grouping up, Dazer, you're moving up pretty far, bud.
Yeah, I'm not sure why you're all the way up there. There's a Field of Love on the bottom side, but that's not going to do anything to stop the onslaught of the Papis. That's another pick for them, and Dazer falling for the 6th time this game. I mean, he has been not... I think it's safe to say Dazer's not having a good time right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing better than the last game. It was 1-6 in game 1. Now we're looking at a 2-6. You know, that's marked improvement from the support from Hawks Hotel. But in all reality, it's looking bleak if you're a Hawks Hotel fan. 12,000 gold separating these two teams. Left side Phoenix already down. Fire Giant respawning in 30 seconds, and Hawks Hotel still have a lot of Fire Minion Waves leeching their way throughout each lane, and now Oni Minion Waves as well, which is going to do a good job of diverting the attention of Hawks Hotel and adding valuable information to the Papis. If anyone steps up to deal with these waves, they're going to show up on the minimap, and the Papis going to know exactly where you are and how they can respond around each one of these team fights. The defensive positioning already going to the Chaos team, but we're a little bit ward light. The majority of the Papis wards are in a very aggressive positions, trying to spot out anyone who tries to step into the Fire Giant. Hawks Hotel has no right stepping into that realm. Fire Giant should go down for free in favor of the Chaos team.
With the respawn, everybody will commit straight to it. Marcus coming back out of base. Draco Marino just kind of standing up there. I mean, that's all he needs to do is, hey, my team's doing Fire Giant. I dare you to step forward and try and stop this one. It'll go down for free. Papis with their 2nd Fire Giant of the game, and that'll force Maniac to dash back to the safety of their Phoenix. Draco Marino pushing up with Creed. All 5 players now moving possibly over towards this right-hand side. That might just leave Marcus in the mid lane, just a split push on his own. Fail's kind of teetering between the 2 Phoenixes, just to, has that ultimate, has that blink in case he needs to make a quick commit over. They might be committing on to Marcus. He eats a couple of bombs from this Agni, but he's pretty tanky with that sledge, with that Blackthorn hammer. And Streak Up forced to feed, now forced to Aegis, gets away from the snipe, but Draco Marino's got him pushed up. That is probably not what you wanted to do there, my friend, as he gets eaten alive by the thorns out of the support. That's 3 down on the side of Hawks Hotel. Only Maniac and Dazer, the tanks left alive to defend. They got Warchi, so it's gonna slow down their Phoenix push. And they gotta get 1 before they can move into the Titan room. Luckily, they still got Marcus, they still got Chekio. But how will these 2 tanky frontliners defend against it? They got quite a bit of damage, quite a bit of CC. But the Titan is already down to half health. Trigger's going to get 1 push. Maniac getting a low. The Thorns aren't enough to keep him alive for the time being. Creed gets the leap on. Chekio gets the beam. And Papis get the 2-0.
And convincing fast fashion as well. The Papis lose the early game in both games, but still finish out the match in sub 25-minute fashion. I don't know. I don't know what to say to you. Hawks Hotel, they look good in the early. It's just this mid-game decision-making is lacking. When they get a lead, they don't know what to do with it. They're not pushing into steal objectives, steal buffs, or anything along those lines. Meanwhile, the Papis, 2,000 gold down at the 6-minute mark, they're stripping away your red buff. They're stealing your purple. They're going to Gold Fury. They're taking fights inside your towers, and they're winning? It shouldn't happen that way.
It's the Papis. I mean, this is just what they've done for 4 phases now. Is the Papis literally just live in everybody's minds of, we got their early game. Maybe if we stop them from getting a late game. But the problem is nobody's stopping them from getting to late game. Nobody is actually proactively stopping this team from getting to this point. They're like, all right, cool, we got a couple of kills, and that's about it. We got a couple of kills, but they're not pushing those leads both times. As you said, Hawks Hotel, they got the early lead. They have that 5-minute advantage, but they never do anything with it.
Yeah, it's a tough stretch for Hawks Hotel. I think we've learned that they are capable of competing around that early game. Mid to late game, I don't think they ever stood a chance against the Papis, but I'm going to give a quick shout out to Creed, who goes undying in this set. Marcus sets up for the majority of kills as well. Chekio putting out a fair bit of damage and healing for his squad. 14,000 coming through from the Raw exclusively. The anti-heal strategy that we saw from Hawks Hotel through the Agni with Divine Ruin, this Bacchus pickup, it just wasn't enough. And just compare the healing between these two teams. Chekio puts 14,000 out alone, but only 1,200 coming through from the entirety of Hawks Hotel.
Chekio, I don't remember if it said 8 or 9 kills that he finished out with into this game, but I mean, this man is a monster on this Raw. He got it 2 games in a row, and he showed just why he's allowed to get it. Has that long-range snipe again set up by Marcus. I mean, that was just play after play. Both games, this is just the lather, rinse, repeat of what happened.
Yep, there it is again. Takes him up to the air with the Windfire wheels. And we see that Hawks Hotel is recognizing the strategy. They're trying to disrupt it. In the first clip we saw, Maniac tried to dash on him. And that one we saw someone else trying to put some CC on him before the ultimate could come through. It's just the timing wasn't quite there from Hawks Hotel to mitigate that combo. And it seems like once Chekio hit the ground running, the entirety of the Papis rallied behind him. And they really never stood a chance.
I mean, this snipe was gorgeous out of Chekio. No setup from him onto that. Just, I think he's going to be going over here. Maybe he'll veer right just a little bit when we get that shot. I mean, Chekio, a monster on this Raw, and shows that might be potential bans for him into the future. But speaking of the future, there are still more games to be had. And the standings, as we saw earlier, Papis were down 4th, 5th seed. Now they got that first win under their belts. Taking a look at the standings, that bumps them up and puts, unfortunately for Hawks Hotel, down to that 0-2 status for it. And they're going to have a long crawl back up because every one of these teams above Hawks Hotel is a dangerous team to go against. I mean, Smiley Face took a game, maybe not the set, but they still took a game off of Belt Slap, who have been the 3-time FaZe champions. And looking at the schedule, there's still 2 more matches that are going to go on later tonight. Pickery Noobs and Belt Slap, in my opinion, the matchup to be watching. And then Papis and Snake Pit are going to be going at it as well.
You know, I'm more excited for that Papis Snake Pit lineup. I can't wait to see that game. I think there's going to be a little bit of some contingency or the ability to throw a game there. I think that's a much closer matchup. Whereas Belt Slap, as you said, the 3-time champions of the SCC. I think we all know who the favorite of that set is.
Yeah, I mean, Belt Slap have just essentially gone undefeated. They've dropped, I think, 1 full set, maybe 2 full sets in 3 entire phases of play. So for 3/4 of this year, they have only lost maybe, if I count on my hands, maybe 5 games total in that entire amount. I mean, Belt Slap are a clear favorite to win again here in phase number 4. And it'd be no surprise if they did take this set, but I'm not going to count them out just yet, especially not against Pickery Noobs, who have been kind of on the uprising ever since those phase 3 playoffs. But that's going to do it for the SCC for today. But we still have some more Smite action for you. The SPL coming up at 3 o'clock. We got a little bit of time from there, so stick around. We'll be back at 3 for the kickoff of SPL for today.